Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back to the Voice of Reality podcast. I am so grateful to have you here and have you tuning in with me as always. And I am so excited to get into this one as I know it's going to help so many of you on your own journey, as it is something and it is a topic I wish was delved into more as I began and obviously as younger years. But even now, it still is a topic which is so important to discuss and to remind ourselves of. First things first, though, how are we all feeling and how has the week been? I was away in Rome last week and it was actually heaven. The food is genuinely 12 out of 10 and not one place, not one restaurant disappointed. And honestly, I was literally in shock at how different the food tasted over there, and how Italian food actually like tasted compared to Italian restaurants and things like that at home. What we get at home is literally trash compared to the pasta, pizzas, and croissants over there. So if you're ever thinking of going to Rome, absolutely do it for the food alone. But wow, can I please just say that the chub rub in that heat was real and something so small that I actually want to touch on because I always remember as a teenager, this used to get me so much. How dare my thighs rub off one another as I walk? Like, how dare I not have a thigh gap? But anyone out there listening and also feels this and does get any type of chub rub, please know it is so normal, especially in the heat, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. Literally, I'd say about 90% of the population have this. This though was the first time in a long time it's been this painful, and I literally had cramps in my adductors afterwards from trying to like tense my legs and not make it hurt as much. It was so warm, and we were walking absolutely everywhere and anywhere, so it's to be expected. It's not a big deal. One top tip when going away is to walk, and I always say this: keep the steps up, keep like active where you can, and in some sort of way, and walking obviously is one thing that you can do absolutely anywhere. As I've mentioned before, I'm currently cutting, and this current cut is more of a lifestyle based approach, which does mean that I kind of factored in my weekend away. I had my brother's wedding as well, and I even have been having like a few off plan meals, which suits me a lot better because I wanted it to be a little bit more of a slower approach, more of a lifestyle approach in general. When cutting, it doesn't have to be hell and back. You can choose the route you want to take if you want to go and maybe take a little bit of a longer route itself and spend a little bit more time, and go for like a more realistic lifestyle approach. That's absolutely fine. Or on the other hand, you could have more of a prep physique approach, which would be where time is a little bit more limited. Maybe goals are a little bit more extreme and you need to get somewhere fast. So within this approach, you probably wouldn't be able to factor in things like weekends away, holidays, occasions, and little things like that. You would be a lot more strict in this approach. Both approaches will get you to the same place. The only difference is, or the only things that might change slightly, is how long it might take, and also making sure it's actually the correct approach for you and you're able to maintain it. So, for me personally, I love both. I can do the more extreme, strict approach, amazing, it's a quicker amount of time, or I could go for the slower, more lifestyle approach. It completely depends on what kind of period of time of life I'm in and what's going on. If I do have occasions and things like that planned, just completely depends. The lifestyle approach is 100% more sustainable. That's one thing I will say. But there's nothing wrong with being more restrictive if it needs be and going for a more prep physique approach. It completely depends on individual to individual and on your goals and what you specifically want to achieve from this. I've been through both, and personally, for me, it just fully depends on obviously the timeline that I give to myself. So, for now, obviously, as I've said, I've had more things going on. So I've given myself more time to play around with, which I kind of made sure that this was something that I could incorporate in. But coming into the next kind of 4 or 5 weeks, I am going to go a little bit more restrictive and I'm just going to make sure that things are sped up a little bit because I have kind of nothing going on in the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I know that I can actually do this. And when I say restrictive, can I please just mention, I do not mean I'm going to be starving myself and hating my entire existence along the way. I just mean turning the tempo up a little bit and making some harder choices day to day. But I'm absolutely okay with that. A huge thing to always remind yourself of when you're dieting is that no matter what you do, it's going to be hard in some shape or form. Staying the same and feeling uncomfortable in yourself is hard. Showing up for yourself and making a change can also be hard. You just have to pick which one you want. The only difference is the latter you actually get a reward from. So when you choose the hard, that is showing up for yourself and doing the things you need to do, you can actually benefit from this, especially in the long run. So let's get into our question of the week. Let's get into our question of the week on Let's Be Real. This is actually a question I got from a follower in my messages, but I know it's one that we all might struggle with or we all might want answered. I've been training and eating wellish for over 6 months now, but I have not lost any weight or seen any changes. What can I do? I feel like I'm a lost cause and stuck in a rut. So, number one, if you are following a well-structured plan, you're like literally 1,000% sticking to it every day, you should be seeing changes. So maybe this specific plan that you're following needs to change and it isn't actually suited to you. Following a generic plan or something you found off the internet might not be cutting it for the goals that you want and for your obviously individual body and what you need from it. Number two, you need to monitor all you're doing and checking in, even if it's with yourself or with a coach. Keeping yourself accountable and seeing where issues may lie or if things are slipping through the cracks each week. If you're just playing the guessing game, you won't get very far. And if you're kind of just winging it, you're not going to get very far because you don't actually know what's going wrong. You'll find yourself in this situation of kind of being stuck and plateauing and not knowing what to do because you actually don't know what's going wrong, what's going right, and what you might need to change. Number three, if you're genuinely eating in a calorie deficit, you should be seeing changes and obviously maybe some weight dropping off or your body composition changing. So if you know 1,000% there's no other way, but you are 1,000% in a calorie deficit, you are monitoring absolutely everything, tracking everything. There is no excuses. There's no random meals out, no alcohol every single weekend. There's no biscuits that are going untracked. There's literally no excuses. Then there could be a problem with your metabolism or with your hormones, and this could need to be checked. You could also be eating far too little calories, and your metabolism could have slowed down because of this. And that never ever helps in the long run. So always make sure that everything is looking good on that side. And number four, as painful as this is, and I know no one wants to hear this, but it does take time. So, as much as you might think you should be seeing results, everyone is so different and everyone's journey is so different. It takes longer for some people to see changes, and that is okay. You need to keep showing up for yourself with a plan in place, and that's in line with your goals, and then you need to give it time. Be patient with your progress, I beg of you. If anyone ever has any questions on all of this or on anything in and around, please let me know. If there's any questions on obviously progress goals and you're finding things very, very difficult, just reach out, ask away. I always, always love to help. Okay, so this week's episode, we are going to be delving into all things body image and confidence. In this day and age, a topic that should be discussed a lot more often. Unfortunately, as women, we all suffer in some sort of way with our body image and self-worth and confidence. It's extremely sad to see. And I always want you all to know that it's not how it's meant to be, and you do actually deserve to feel good. Now, I'm not saying that I personally feel good every single day and I love myself every single day, but wow, I have come a long, long way from how I used to feel, and I now have the tools and knowledge to actually help me. I hope this resonates with anyone that it needs to. We will be chatting with Coach Amy as well today on her journey and with body image and confidence in general. And it will be really, really nice to get two different aspects and perspectives on it to help you all kind of resonate with it more as well. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. I honestly am so excited to have you here because I feel like the last one got such good response, and it's always so nice to have other people's kind of perspective on things. But how are you? How's the week been?
I am good. Very tired. Only finished my night, but all good. Week off now, so I'm happy out.
Yeah, no, I always say that even to you. Like, I don't know how people work shift work. I don't know how people do nights. And then, but you know what I think the worst thing is, right? Because there is some
Mm,
people that work, say, in the airport and stuff, and they do nights all of the time. And like, I feel like that's just such a routine. For you and for nurses, it's like nights one week, days the next, and then night, and it just chops and changes so much. I honestly
yeah.
think that's what would get me the most.
Yeah, it's that constant swap and change of your body clock, I think is the hardest part. But then kind of once you figure out your own little routine with them, like they aren't the worst thing in the world, but would
Yeah.
much rather just be on the days all the time.
Absolutely. I think we'll definitely do a kind of chat and a cast on even just night shifts in themselves and just how they work, how your body works, your own routine. Because I do think there's so much people that benefit from that, but just shift work in general, I think
Yeah.
it's a huge thing. But for today, we are going to be chatting about body image, confidence, and all of the likes, which are things that obviously we promote hugely within RCGC itself. We value hugely as individuals. And I think that's why we connect so well as well, because our values with that hold so strong. And we both have completely different experiences with body image and confidence. So I am really excited to chat about that with you and to kind of delve into it, because as I said, different people's perspectives go such a long way. But first off, I know that obviously you are coming into your cutting phase. It's getting a little bit more of a cut, we'll say. You're obviously coming into your calorie deficit in general. We had been building for a while and then tiptoeing downwards into maintenance, then tiptoeing into the cut. How are you finding things at the minute? I always think it's nice to discuss this.
For me, this cut probably has been the easiest cut that I have done, purely because I'm coming off the back of that building phase where
Yeah.
food was pushed higher, and like my field is in such a good position now. My training is in such a good position, and my mindset with training, I think that I built during my building phase is really like trickling into this phase, and I can feel a huge difference in my training alone now in this block. So it's actually been nice, and sometimes like it's obviously nice to have these long term goals, but it is nice to also switch things up. So I knew myself, right, I was finished with building. I was like, I need to take a step away from that, excite myself again and get into something new. And honestly, I've just been buzzing the last few weeks with it all.
Yeah, and I think even you just saying that about how it has felt mindset wise, obviously a little bit easier, but even like your physique has been changing so drastically. And I cannot say this enough, let me sing it all over again, but like building is so important. Like you cannot just get your dream body from, just cutting 24/7. Like your body is never, ever, ever going to change if you aren't putting it through different phases. So that's why you are now finding it a little bit easier, firstly, physique wise, and how drastic your physique has been changing, but secondly, mindset wise, because you have actually changed up your mindset. You've been in a very, very strong place with building, with your food being pushed higher. And then you were like, I'm actually excited now nearly to cut again
Yeah,
and I'm ready for it, instead of it being every week of the year. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? Getting sick of it. So that is a huge one. When
yeah.
you were building, obviously, and you had such a successful building phase as well over the past few months, and I obviously love going through building phases, building that tissue, and just really focusing on fuel and strength within the gym, which I think is something so huge that people kind of miss out on. That people are constantly looking at physique, people are constantly looking on how they look, and this kind of ties in well with the topics we're going to be talking about now today. That sometimes you need to take a step back from constantly looking about how your physique is going, how, if your hips are coming in, if your waist is coming in, if your arms look smaller, if you've abs. And it's really nice to step out of that zone for a while and really focus on strength and energy. And that's obviously what we did for a few months after your photo shoot there as well when building. How did you find that? And is there any like major tips or anything that you would give to other people, or any advice you would give?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you kind of do come out of that, say, photo shoot prep mindset, where it is very much a physique based goal, which is fine, that's no problem. But you do need to kind of switch things up because your mind cannot work like that 24/7 all year round. So I think for me coming out of that phase, it was very hard at first to switch my mindset from, right, I'm not focusing on getting leaner, I'm focusing on getting stronger because I was so used to seeing the physique changes. But then once I started to see my strength in the gym build, I was pushing weights I had never pushed before. I was like, okay, maybe I do actually kind of like this phase. And it kind of gave me that drive to keep going because I was like, if this is my base now, where can I be at in 6 months' time with my strength alone? So that's what I like to focus on when I was building was how strong I felt and how good I felt after all of my gym sessions. Like there was probably very few gym sessions of my building phase that I left and was like, I hated that or that was a brutal session. whereas with your cutting, it can kind of be a little bit more often because your strength obviously is not going to be there like it would be in your building phase.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I think huge focus. I think your mindset completely kind of changes. You have to make such a shift. And then, literally, as you said, you're excited then to nearly kind of change things up again and have that kind of switch in mindset all over again, goals, everything like that. What would be your number one tip when it comes to building?
Fuel and fuel yourself properly, you know, because obviously when you are pushing food, it's very easy to fall into the, "Oh, well, sure, look, I can eat whatever I want and do this," and not actually prioritize the type and the quality of food that you're having. So just focusing on that and eating food that makes you feel good, not just food that's high in calories to get the food in, making the best choices that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a huge one from myself would be as well to obviously you get to a certain point where it is very hard to eat your calories. Like
Mm,
you can drink your calories. You can use more high calorie kind of volume foods with regards to say like butters, spreads, and just like drinks in general have the full fat Coke. Do you know what I mean? So I think a huge thing when it comes to building is there comes a point where food is definitely pushed a lot higher than ever before, and you could find it very, very hard to constantly be trying to get food down. I always say use more high calorific kind of choices, and obviously as well drink your calories whenever you can. So that would be a tip that I always kind of even use myself. So with regards to coming into cutting now, which it's really nice now that you have had that experience, obviously building, yourself now as well, how to give that to others, that experience, and as well like tips, tricks, advice. But when it comes to cutting, what would be your number one advice, your number one tip?
Just nail your routine, you know, because cutting, it's obviously going to be a lot more demanding, say, than a building phase where you might have extra cardio. You're going to have to be a bit more on the ball with your food than you would be in a building phase. So you need your routine nailed. You need to be prepped and ready to go each week, is what I would say. Has helped me a lot. Like I plan my week to a T when I'm cutting. I probably wouldn't do that as much when I'm building because I know myself there's not as much of a demand, say, of an output. But when you are cutting, kind of planning your week, right? When am I going to get my training done? When am I going to get my steps done, my cardio? When is my meals going to be prepped for? And it sounds a lot more drastic than it is. It's not even your full week that you're taking up by doing all these things. It's like an hour or two a day. But it just makes your life so much easier and it makes things run so much smoother.
Yeah. And I just think when you're cutting, you can't be as flexible. That's
Yeah.
the main thing there. I think when you're cutting, things aren't as you're not as free as much as you don't have to restrict to the absolute like nines. It's not like hell and back or anything like that, as we know. But I think it is a little bit more restrictive. You're not as flexible. There's not as much freedom. And that's fine, but that does take some planning because you need to make sure that you're not failing at the first obstacle, like literally. And I think a huge thing with building, and it is a really nice part of building, is that you have a little bit more flexibility and you get to have a little bit more choice. And that is lovely sometimes. But yeah, if your goals are to cut, your goals are to lose body fat and to kind of, get a little bit more snatched, then we definitely need to plan ahead. I 100% agree with that, having your routine in place. And I know I said for building, having more high calorie dense foods is always good, and drinking your calories and things like that. But when it comes to cutting, we definitely flip that on the opposite kind of side, and we go for lower calorie choices, swap things out. You had an amazing post up on the RCG and on
Mhm.
your coaching page as well, about lower calorie choices and swaps that you can
Yeah.
make. It's simple, but it's not always easy. That's one thing I always say as well. And I just think that when you're kind of cutting, you just need to make better choices. That's what it comes down to. And I always say as well that like, it's hard sometimes, but the change that you are going to go through and the reward you're going to get for it always outruns that, always beats it, and we always feel amazing for it.
100%. Yeah.
So we're going to delve in to our journeys when it comes to body image. I have heard snippets and pieces of your journey, and obviously with being your coach, I kind of know the background and at events and things where you have been talking about this and different kind of elements of your journey. But I think this is going to be a really nice way for everyone else to hear it, and just to kind of people to have a different kind of idea of what we all go through with body image. Because can I please just say, as females, not one of us has come out through life not having some sort of negative phase, or even now you could still be going through it with that negative body image and toxic thoughts and toxic body image in general, and just not feeling good, not feeling confident. And they are things that we always want to promote. We want people to feel good. We want people to feel confident. So allowing people to see what we have gone through means that they can resonate with that a lot, and means that they can learn a lot from it as well. So I just want you to kind of give a little bit of background of your journey with body image, and kind of what went on as a younger kind of Amy up until now as well.
Yeah, so I think when I was younger, I always say I was such an innocent little child. I had not a thought in the world. Like, people would be commenting on their bodies at like 12 or 13. I was so innocent and naive to it all. And then until I was about 14 or 15, I ended up getting diagnosed with a condition called scoliosis. So basically, my spine is shaped like an S. It's the only way I can explain it in an easy way. And I think from there, that's when things just started to go downhill. So when I was, I think, 15 or so, I had to obviously get treatment and stuff for this. So for me not to have to get surgery when I was older, I had to wear a brace at the time. And all I can describe it as is like this big piece of plastic. Like, it was a thick piece of plastic, and I'd have to wear it around my body for like 22, 24 hours a day for like a year straight. And obviously with that, I was such a petite child as well. I was also then started going through puberty and stuff because I would have gotten my period a lot later than most people. So I was having all of these changes coming through with this. And I think my main thing during that time was when you kind of get a diagnosis and stuff like that, people will nearly like view you as it. And I remember, like, at the time, I didn't even notice things on my body until so many people would start to point things out. So they'd be like, oh, I can see it now. Like, I can see that you're pointing out where the curve is in your back, or, oh, you can see actually that hip is sitting higher than the other, or, oh, I can see it wherever. So I think for me, I became so aware of my body and like how misproportioned, say, it was. And this is something that I struggled with for years after. Like, it wasn't just a thing of get your treatment and it's done, because obviously I still have the scoliosis now, but this is something that kind of rolled into later life, and it's something that I probably really struggled with up until this time last year. I would have just kept myself so quiet about it. I never really shared it with anyone or spoke to anyone about it because, like, I know people will comment on your body and they probably think it's coming from a good place, but they don't really understand sometimes like the negative effects it can actually have on you. So I think that's kind of where my base of actually I've started to struggle, or I had started to struggle with my body image, had all actually come from.
Yeah, and you're saying there, sorry, one thing that I picked up on was that you had to wear the brace for
Mm,
22 hours. Did you just sleep with it on?
yeah.
And like, it
Mm,
obviously, how long was that for? That must have literally taken over your life. Like, as you said, it
yeah.
must have became your personality. Like,
Yeah. No, it did, because I would say 15 when I was putting that. I was kind of diagnosed a little bit later. It was like, right, you have a year left of growing basically to do with my cycle and stuff. So they were like, this has to be for a year consistently, like as much as you can wear that thing, like you have to wear it.
that is
Yeah.
mental. Like,
I
that's mental.
know.
And like,
Yeah.
how did that affect your everyday life? Like, I think that is honestly mad, because to think that obviously you're sleeping in it would be very uncomfortable. But how did that affect your everyday life and even like school, obviously at that age? But even your mindset towards things, and like how people viewed you with the brace.
Mm. I think it definitely was a negative experience. It wasn't a great experience that I had with it. Because firstly, like, say, as I said, I was quite a petite child, and then I was forced to then go and get all of these new clothes because everything had to go up in size because of the thickness of this. So I also couldn't wear anything. Like, I used to love like little jeans and a little crop top from like when I was 12. I couldn't wear that anymore. I was kind of forced into more like oversized clothes. And then in terms of school and stuff, I was probably barely ever in school with it because I literally like I would struggle to sit for an hour straight in a classroom with the thing on without having to move and stuff because it was just painful. Like, it was not so much fun, but look,
Yeah, like obviously it had to be done, and like you're very
yeah.
grateful for it now, but I can only imagine how demanding it was on every other aspect of your life. So it's crazy for me because I've never had to experience that. Do you know what I mean? And for anyone else, and even as you said, like back then, I'm sure people were asking these questions and were like wondering what's going on. And I'd say it is quite triggering. I know that you've obviously worked a lot on it, and you've kind of been able to come out the other side and different things like that. But like, Absolutely. Like as you said, some people think it's coming from the best place, but it can be quite triggering, and it is something then that would play a huge effect on your body image, how you view yourself, and how you know other people view you. As much as we don't want to be thinking about what other people think of us, and we're kind of all like here for the once I'm happy, once I love myself at a young age like that.
Yeah,
1000%, everything revolves around what other people think. Everything. You know what I mean? Like you were obviously
yeah.
15, 16, and like to have your friends, classmates, boys, different things like that, like viewing you in a different light, like absolutely, it's such a huge impact.
100%, like, and even, like, I always say this to, like, friends and stuff like that, but, like, even from the age of, like, 15, 16, I was like to myself, right, because obviously when you are so imbalanced around, like, your spine and stuff, like, I have imbalanced boobs and stuff, and I was always like, "I'm gonna get a boob job when I'm older because that is what is gonna make me feel better." I went to all of the consultations and everything. I'm pretty sure I'm still on, like, a waiting list now for one, like, because I was like, "If that's something I can control and make me feel good, like, I'm gonna do that," like, just
Yeah.
for a bit of confidence, like, that was the point that it got me to, like, in terms of my negative body image. I was like, "Right, well, if I can fix that, I'll be grand," like, but obviously it's a lot deeper than just that, like.
Yeah, it's a lot deeper than some surgery for sure.
Yeah.
And come here, obviously, just going back to the scoliosis in general. How did you get diagnosed with this, and what was that kind of like that process like? Of obviously, you were saying you were a little bit older than usual to actually be diagnosed.
It was actually I had a dance teacher at the time, and she was the one that copped it. It was like I remember the day so, like, vividly, but it was a day in summer, and I used to do ballet, so we were all in, like, little leotards and tights or whatever, and we used to always just wear our hoodies in class, but this one day, it was too warm, and we were all just in our leotards doing bits and whatever we were doing, bending over, and I had, like, a backless one on, and she copped it, and she had said it to my mum. She was like, "You need to go and get that checked," and that's kinda how we
Yeah.
went about, then went to the GP, and then from there it was all pretty much a rush process because it was like she needs to be seen to ASAP or this could get worse or she could be left with worse outcomes in later life. So it was all a very quick process, but
Well, like honestly, thank God for firstly your teacher, but the fact that you
yeah.
did go, and even your mom, do you know what I mean, really took
Mm,
it on board and like took that seriously. Because I just feel like in this day and age, like no one takes health scares or anything serious anymore. Like, so
yeah.
it's just a lot. But yeah, okay. And I think like our journeys are very, very different in the sense of for you, you obviously came into your womanhood, your period, your cycle, everything like that very late in life.
Yeah.
And then obviously there was a traumatic event that actually triggered, say, your negative body image, and just your confidence and things like that in general. Whereas for me, um, I grew up always. Oh, I had two older sisters. I had a brother. I was the youngest. I was always comparing myself. I think I was such a girly girl as well, as in like in the sense of I loved wearing little dresses and little things like this. And like my friends were always so much smaller than me. And I was like, why don't I look like that in my skirt? Or why don't I look like that? Like when I wear a little t-shirt and things like that. And all of a sudden I was like 7, 8 years old. And I was like, I can't wear that. I was making decisions of what I could wear from my wardrobe based off of like my body and what my friends looked like. And I did get my period very, very young. I actually got my period when I was like 9, I think 8, 9. I was in second class. You were only really learning about those things at that stage. And it did make a lot more sense as to why my body was so different to my friends, and to everyone else around me, because I came into my body very early. I had tissue around my chest, my boobs. That can I please just say, my boobs have not grown from the age of 12. So I'm literally like, what a disservice. Like, what a disservice. If anything, I should have double D's, because they started growing so young. But really, what happened was the opposite. They started and stopped.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I think, yeah, because I came into puberty so early, I was very aware of my body. I was very aware that I looked different to everyone else around me. And that went on for, I'd say, about 4 or 5 years, because really people, the average age where they did hit puberty was 12, 13. And that went on for years of me being like, what's wrong with me? Do you know what I mean? Why is this happening to me? And not really discussing it with friends and anything like that. We were also innocent, like that's fine. Um, but I think growing up in a house as well with two older sisters, you see what's going on in the world beauty standard wise. And I think even from them, like they wouldn't any way ever want me to feel bad or anything like that, but I would see them, using makeup and the clothes that they were wearing and the diet trends, the magazines that were always in the house, all of these things that I would then pick up on, of course, as a kind of influenced little child. And I think my whole life genuinely based around, okay, the diet culture world, what's going on, what are other people looking like, what does my body look like, and different things like this. And also, as well as that, I was very aware that I looked different from a young age. Now, having said that, as I kind of came into my teenage years, it did get a lot worse. And I think that does happen to nearly everyone, like literally nearly everyone, as they come into their teenage years and they start thinking negatively about themselves. And I just think the world becomes a little bit more toxic. But I always like I ever since I remember, I was aware of my body and in a negative way. It was never like I look good or I look cute or this is so nice. It was always I need to cover this up. I don't look like her. My legs are bigger than what they should be. Why are my hips so broad? All of these things. And it was always picking myself apart. And it's mad for me because I used to be so triggered when people would comment on things in a nice way. Like people would be like, "Oh my god, like you look so nice in that," or "Your waist is so small." I always used to get that, like, "Your waist is so small," like blah blah. I used to be triggered by that because I was like, "Yes, my waist might be small, but that's because my hips are so big, or that's because my legs are so big." And I knew like why my waist might be smaller, why like a certain way, certain something might suit me better. And it was quite hard because when people used to like comment on things or anything like that as you grow up, obviously my brother used to comment on my weight and things just being mean. And he didn't ever want it to be the most malicious thing ever, but it stuck with me a lot because I had so much insecurities. And that's one thing I say all of the time. If something triggers you in any way, whether it's body image, whether it's anything, whether it's jealousy, whether it's certain emotions that you have that aren't obviously seen to, it's your insecurity that's triggering you, not what they said. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if it's things that they don't mean from a bad place. Like that's an insecurity that you have. And I think growing up, a huge one for me was body image, was confidence. Obviously for you as well, coming into your kind of womanhood and stuff like that a little bit later. And then obviously the health and kind of scare and different things like that. And it's mad how different they are because we both came through the same negative toxic traits and different things that kind of then led us to here, which is amazing at the same time. But in my teenage years, it definitely got a lot worse. I remember even coming up to 18, 19, 20, it was probably at its like peak prime. And because you start to go out, you start to wear like tight dresses, different things like this. There's debs coming up, there's occasions coming up, there's all these different things. And I was becoming more aware of social media, and that was coming in and it got so much worse. I genuinely think I was about 24 when I was like, something needs to happen here. Like, I cannot live my life in this constant black hole of thinking about how I look.
Yeah.
That's all I remember, just being consumed by what do my friends look like? What do I look like? Are these shorts okay? And can I wear this? Can I wear that? That is no way to live. And I think that's a huge reason why we are doing what we do now, because we know how black the hole can be and how toxic can be, and how like we are fully aware that no one should feel like that.
Yeah. I love what you said there though. It's like you knew something had to change. Do you know? You kind of hit that point in your life where you are like, right, something has to change, but I have to be the one to make that change. If I want different, I have to make that change. I think that's something really important. Like
Yeah, it
people
is.
are waking up to.
Like we know ourselves, we can help anyone. Like I can help absolutely anyone, you can help anyone, you can give all the advice in the world, but if you're not willing to help yourself, like, do you know what I mean? If your mindset isn't in a place where you're like, I want to change or I need to change, whatever the reasons might be, you're not going to get very far. Like, do you know what I mean? You're not going to take aboard what anyone says, and you're just going to be stuck in that cycle and in that hole. And yeah, it was a huge thing for me. I think a huge, excuse me, turning point for me was firstly my nieces. And I was like, right, they have to grow up in a world now that I grew up in. And God forbid it's as toxic as what I had to go through. So I was like, I need to set an example for them. But also, as well, I start coming into a place where I wanted to help other people. And I was like, how can I help other people when I think these things about myself or I'm still going through these cycles? And I was like, I need to set an example here that other people can look at and say, she's come out the other side.
Yeah.
She knows what it's like. She has had that experience of feeling so low, no self confidence, no self worth, toxic body thoughts, toxic body image, and negativity. And now she's where she is now. Now, I'm not saying that I still don't feel some of these things, absolutely, but I have the tools, I have the knowledge, I have the experience now to actually help myself. And I was like, the huge turning point for me was the example that I knew I had to set to actually be able to help others. What for
Mhm.
you was a turning point where you were like, this isn't helping me anymore?
I think it was like when I was, say, in college and stuff, and there'd be nights out, things out, and I would go through these toxic phases of being like, I hate my body when it's small, but then I also hate my body when I put on weight. So I was constantly like this yo-yo dieting of bulking, cutting, but like to the absolute extremes where I had no education, no clue what I was doing. And I think I just got to a point where I was like, this is not making me happy. Like something has to change. I'd say that was probably like the start of last year, so probably like January, February of 2023, that where I was like, right, something really, really has to change here.
And what age you? What age were you there?
I was 21.
Yeah. I honestly think you have to come through the years of pressure of I think the teenage years are probably the hardest, and then the years of going out a bit, and then there does come a breaking point where you're like, am I actually just going to live my entire life like this? Do you know what I mean? Like it's actually nearly like scary.
Yeah.
Um where I'm afraid to wear a pair of shorts because someone might look at my legs and different things like that. But I think it's becoming later and later in life now because of social media
Yeah.
and because of people looking on at everyone else. And like, there's people I know that come to us and they could be in their 30s and they have no self confidence. They have whatever about, I think confidence is another thing. So you can always work on that. Even me and you, we can always work on that. But they have very, very negative body image and like just toxic traits with that. And I just honestly can't say this enough, but your life should not be like that. Like, you should, like, that's not normal. Like, it should not be spent like that. Your thought process should not be like that, and you can do things to help yourself.
Yeah. You definitely can.
How do you find fitness and just training, health, like working on yourself has helped you on that journey?
Oh, I genuinely think the gym has changed my life in that aspect, because it gave me all of this control back in my life that I once never had or never thought I could have. So I probably started the gym when I was like 18 in college, like not a clue what I was doing in it, but I started taking things a little bit more seriously then, say, like just after lockdown and stuff. And I got into weight training and stuff, and I would start to build muscle. And I started to realize, right, the more muscle that I built, the less noticeable these things are on my body. So it nearly gave me that power within me that I was like, okay, if I kind of continue to push myself in the gym and build my physique, it's gonna help create the illusion, say, that look at you actually can't see these things anymore. They're not as noticeable. So that's kind of where it started. But then over the years, it was more so kind of grew into a thing of like, okay, actually the gym is helping me to not feel pain in my back. The gym is giving me that control of like when I build muscle, it's nearly like cushioning my back. You can't see things as much. I was in the doctors a while ago, and it's like if you kind of keep doing what you're doing, you're not gonna have to get surgery when you're older. Like, I'm at a point that I am in a position that very few people at my age with scoliosis are. And that's purely down to the gym and from training and putting in the work over the last few years.
Yeah, it's mad as well that you said that. Obviously, like, it comes down to the thing of, and you were obviously saying there that you were going to the gym, you were building muscle, and you were like reaping the rewards for that. You were seeing what your body could do instead of what it can't do. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to actually taking back control. You could
Yeah.
control the fact that you can help yourself. You could go to the gym. You could build upon your physique. You could change it if you wanted to. You could make it stronger. You could, actually help your future self in such a huge way that has nothing got to do with, oh my God, my physique, I'm skinny, I'm not skinny, all of these things. Like you are actually
Yeah.
helping your health issues there and your future self. And for me as well, when I think about this and when I deep it, I'm like, it all comes down to what you can control. So I know for myself, obviously it wasn't health purposes, but I was always self-conscious about my legs. I was always self-conscious about my kind of chest area and the fact that I genuinely have no boobs, and that is absolutely fine. I'm all okay with it now. But obviously when you're going through teenage years and that's kind of what like your life revolves around of like how good you look and different things like that, and the fact that like I couldn't wear certain tops or certain dresses and things like that where I wouldn't have any cleavage or any boobs. And I was always like, I'll get a boob job. Same as yourself. I was like, I'll get a boob job. That will fix my problem. But realistically, thinking back now, I am so grateful I never went or did anything about that because it would never have fixed anything. What I needed to do was literally control what I could. And what I could do was I could go to the gym. I could work on myself in different ways and make other things really, really strong points. That meant I didn't even look at the weak points anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like now my boobs are something that I don't even concentrate on. I don't even notice them. Do you know what I mean? I don't even blink at that. I'm like, well, look at my bicep. Do you know what I mean? Look at my shoulders now. But it all comes down to taking back control.
Yeah.
Taking back control. You can control things. And I always say, stop concentrating on what you can't actually do. Stop concentrating on what you don't have. Stop concentrating on what, might be going wrong. Like, what do you have? What can you work on here? What can you do and actually make better and you can reap the rewards from? And that is your point of view there with actually being able to work on your health and
Mm.
being able to better things for your future self health wise. For me, it was actually being able to better insecurities and being able to better my mindset, like with my body image as well. And it's just huge in the fact of control what you can. It has no, like, anyone that I know that has any kind of body image issues and starts to go to the gym and different things like that always comes out the other side feeling better because they know that they're taking action and that they're doing something to better themselves. But as well as that, they see what they're good at. They see their strong points. They see that their body can actually change and that their body does so much more for them than just how they look. I think that's huge as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, like, even just I can get on such a tangent with these things, but people do really only focus on how they look. Like, do you know what I mean? Oh my God, my physique. How do I look in this? I think once you start actually using your body how it should be used, you
Yeah.
realize that it does so much more for you. You realize that you can move your legs, your arms, your body in general. And some people actually don't get that experience. And that's something you should be hugely grateful for. Moving your body is a privilege, like, is a
Yeah.
privilege.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so obviously fitness for you helped hugely with future health issues, and even just in general at the minute it's obviously helping you hugely mindset wise, and as you said, like, you're in such a better, stronger position for anyone your age with scoliosis. How has it helped you with body image and mindset?
Yeah, so this was definitely probably the last thing for me to ever notice is how much it has helped me in this aspect, just because it's one of them things that has taken a little bit longer to work on. But I think for me, it was, as I said, I was that one toxic cycling, like bulking, cutting, doing all this thing with like little education, why I was doing what I was doing, just following the latest trend. And I think for me, when I did kind of go through these phases, of course, yes, I wasn't getting very many results, but I was getting some sort of results. And I was noticing, especially in my back area and say the likes of like my glutes and my quads, that I was growing muscle there. And when I started to see like muscle and stuff coming through, again, it started to create that illusion of like nearly like body. It's literally the exact, like, perfect example of body recomp, even because I could see the changes coming through. And the more muscle that I was building, the more muscle that I had, I would notice it in my back a lot less. So that was one thing that kind of drove all that. And then I think in terms of body image myself, I had to just learn to accept like this is the cards I've been dealt with in life. I could be 10 times worse. There's a lot of people with scoliosis that are in a lot worse of a position than I am, as I've said. So I have to understand that look at this is something that I'm gonna have for life. I can either learn to accept it and understand that it makes me who I am, or I can just resent my body for the rest of my life. So it did take a while to get to the first point, but we got there eventually.
Yeah.
Like, still
Yeah.
are working on that.
I actually did love that the way you said like building muscle in certain areas and just different things like that. But I think when you really focus on your stronger points, it makes your weaker points become nearly irrelevant. Like
Yeah,
you are now in such a strong position and you look at your body and your scoliosis or your back is probably the last thing that you look at.
yeah,
Well, I know it's always going to be there. This is something that we need to
mm,
touch on. Like you're not just going to completely forget about it and be like, this is
no,
amazing. Like, absolutely not. But it's something now that you have under control with regards to, say, how you view it. You've actually accepted it a lot more. But because a huge part of that was you were making your stronger points stronger, so that your weaker points kind of became a little bit of noise in the background that weren't controlling your entire mindset and your entire life. Like
yeah,
for myself, as I said, like my chest area, my boobs, never had any. And that obviously consumed me for a very long time. As like honestly, it sounds so materialistic, like it sounds so silly, like for me to be so consumed by something like that. But I just think as a young girl, like everyone is.
yeah,
And like I remember joining the gym at 17 and really, I don't think this, I mean, I know you're saying it took a while to really work on it and to see it. I don't think it's that it takes a while for it to come to life. It takes a while for you to actually look back and be like, oh my God, all of those steps led me to here. And
yeah,
now I understand. So I think, yeah, when I joined the gym and I started working on stronger areas of my body, the little bit of noise that I had towards my body negatively, like maybe my boobs, maybe my legs being bigger, that all became a little bit more distant and a little bit more irrelevant because there was so much my body could do and so much
yeah,
strong points that I could concentrate on. I think that is ginormous when it comes to your body image, that there's always going to be something that you don't like about yourself. There's always going to be something that you speak negatively of or that you look at yourself and you resent. And like every single female, I know that we all go through this. But on the other side, there should always be something that you feel strongly about, that you actually love, something that you can look at yourself and go, I'm so proud of that. I am reaping the rewards for this. And that's what working on your physique and maybe going to the gym or just fitness in general in any sort of way and making that change can do for you and can do for your body image.
mhm, absolutely.
So, obviously for yourself as well, you've kind of been through many different phases, as you have mentioned, just with regards to your journey in general. You've also done a photo shoot. So coming into the next topic of kind of confidence, and looking into that and delving into that, I think a huge part for you that I've seen, obviously as your coach and just in general, was that huge turning point of you doing your shoot and actually seeing yourself on that camera and what was going on. But how do you find kind of fitness and the phases that you've gone through, even the photo shoot, different things like that, have helped you obviously come into yourself and feel more confident?
I think it was more so learning, like, to accept my body for what it is, and like that, yes, there may be things about my body I don't like, but there's also things that I love about my body. And to work on them things that I love and also to work on the things that I don't love. Like, I'm lucky in a sense that, like, I'm quite lower body biased in general. Like, I've strong glutes, strong legs. And like I knew myself, right, if I continue to work on it, I can work on these points. That's what makes me feel happy, is working and training in the gym. So why not keep doing that and keep pushing all of that? And it will help me, like, overall in how I actually feel. Because when you start to see changes come through, you do start to feel a lot better in yourself, you know?
I think in your abilities as well, because a lot of the time, as we know, mindset is huge. So when you actually start to see what you're doing is working, and that you're able for it, you're like, okay, right, I can keep going. Do you know what I mean? I can keep pushing myself, and that's the self belief that is huge for anyone, and that's where a lot of confidence comes from. And I think people get very kind of mixed up in the sense of thinking that confidence comes from some sort of external, like materialistic object or an external goal or just from other people, but it is called self-confidence for a reason. It's not called their confidence. It's not called our confidence. It is self-confidence. Like, it is you. It is on you. It is on your work that you're doing. And I think that is huge. Obviously for yourself then as well, and just talking about self-confidence, what has been probably the biggest turning point for you where you were like, actually, I can do this. Actually, I am confident. And you can kind of bring that to life more.
Oh, it was 100%
Yeah.
my photo shoot prep, you know, like, because I remember when obviously we did speak about this in the last podcast, but like when you had said it to me at first, I was so hesitant about ever doing a photo shoot. I was like, why would I do that? Like, why would I want to showcase my body in that way, you know? And then I think I was like, okay, but if I continue to take these next few weeks and work on myself and push myself in the gym and stuff and actually, you know, do the things that I have to do each day to work on my self confidence, you know, I'll get to highlight all of this on the day of my shoot. And obviously, then that kind of just tied it all together. And that was the point where I was like, okay, maybe I don't hate my body as much as I thought. You know, I started to be like, I actually love like how I looked on the day of my shoot, which I don't think is a bad thing to say. Um, and yeah, I think that just helped a lot. Like,
For anyone that might not resonate with the whole shoot experience or a photo shoot, might be people that are like, I've always wanted to do one, absolutely do. And there might be
yeah,
people that have done one in the past and just understand completely what you're saying. And then there might be people that are like, that's just not my style. There is always some sort of goal or something, like, say, that is like a breaking point in general. Now, I always say confidence is not based off of a goal. It's not based off of an end line or a finish line. It is honestly, like, for me, it's unlocked as soon as you start working on yourself, as soon as you
yeah,
start showing up for yourself. But I think a huge breakthrough moment for anyone is when they see that they have accomplished something they never thought that they could accomplish before, whether that's running a marathon, even a half marathon, even 5K. There is people that are like, to me, I never thought that I could even run 2 km, and that's a huge point of like breakthrough for their mindset. And I'm like, yes, when you accomplish something that you never thought you could do before, it is like a whole new world. Your
yeah,
confidence switches on as soon as you start to take action and as soon as you start to do things. But when you start to step out of your comfort zone and you do something that you fully convinced yourself you would never do, was not for you, this, like, and as I said, it doesn't have to be physique based. It can be a
mm,
competition, it can be a photo shoot, it can be a marathon, it can be going for a new job role, it could be
yeah,
anything, and you do that and you accomplish it, whole new realm of your life is opened.
yeah. No, 100%. You have to just, I think when you prove to yourself, right, I can actually do these things I never thought that I once could, that's when things start to switch and the mindset really starts to flip too.
It's like a whole new, like, flame just
Oh,
like
yeah.
up, and you're like, oh my god, wait, if I
Yeah.
could do that, what else can I do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How much more can I give? What can we do here?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. And that's honestly, I think that's one of the best things that you get from pushing yourself a little bit more and stepping out of your comfort zone, is that realization of, I could actually do more. I could give
Yeah.
more. Yeah, 1000%. So for yourself, how would you explain confidence? And how would you explain kind of what it is, what it means to you? But for other people, like, what it is. Why do we talk about confidence so much?
I think for me, with confidence, it's having the ability in or having the belief system in yourself, even that you can do the things that you want to do. You know, I always say it like confidence comes from pushing out of your comfort zone and making changes, but doing things that you know are going to benefit you in the long run. Whether that's starting to go to the gym, maybe you're going to start training and running a 5K, whatever it is. When you stay consistent with them habits and you actually go and do that and you prove to yourself, okay, I actually can do these hard things I never thought I once could do. That's what I have find actually helps you to bring your confidence up so much more. Back yourself 1% every day. That is it. You know, if you may not fully believe in yourself from the start because you're starting something new, and that's 100% understandable, but if you continue to let them thoughts that you are, I cannot do this, I'm not going to be able to achieve this, what's the point? If you continue to let them kind of thoughts take over, you're going to hold yourself back. So back yourself 1% every day. Have a little bit of a belief system in yourself, because it is a long game. It's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight or in a week's time. It's going to take a few weeks or months, or it could even take years. But you have to continue to show up and continue to work on yourself for yourself if you want to get to that point in life.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Even as you said, like, having a little bit of beliefs, like, honestly, we want all of it. We want all of it.
Mm,
But having a little bit at the start only
yeah,
means that it can grow from there. So backing yourself and doing something 1% better every single day is obviously inevitably going to grow. And that's how, like, obviously your confidence can grow with that. I think for me, a huge thing, especially being in the industry for so long and just working with so many females, is that people tend to think that confidence is solely based off of, and I get it because we have both been here, solely based off of how you look, your physique, solely based off of kind of, how you view yourself, how others view you. And I think there comes a point where you realize that is not what confidence is. Confidence is genuinely how you feel. Like,
Yeah.
how I've had people on calls and on consultation calls where they've been like, I've been heavier than I am now, or I've been more out of shape or not as fit as I am now, but I was more confident then. Like, you could look your absolute worst and be more confident than you are when you look your absolute best. And the thing is with that, you have to realize and you have to tie it to the fact that it is your emotional feeling. Confidence is how you feel. And when you realize that, and when you realize that you can actually create that feeling, everything changes. You can create how to feel confident. You can take action. You can get better at things. You can accomplish things you never thought. You can step out of your comfort zone. You can start something new in order to change. Confidence is switched on. It doesn't matter if you look your best or if you look kind of a certain way that you thought you had to look in order to feel it. You can create it from the get go. And as well as that, obviously, we know from being, in a position where body image was never the best, that knocks your confidence hugely, like hugely. So I do understand why looking good can have a little bit of an effect on it. But I have been honestly working with women that within the first week of them just doing what needs to be done and showing themselves that they can show up knocks
Yeah.
the confidence on and has that switched on. Because if you start showing yourself that you can rely on yourself and that you can actually, be more disciplined, you find more confidence in your abilities.
Yeah.
If you quit and if you fail and fall at every single hurdle that comes your way and you quit and you don't care and you're like, oh, whatever, you're never ever going to feel confident because you are giving into the fact that you're not able to rely on yourself. You're
Yeah.
not showing up for yourself. And that feeling of confidence slowly dishevels with that as well. So I think it's very important that it is a mindset, first and foremost, but it's also a feeling that you can create. It doesn't have to be based off of how you look. It doesn't have to be based off of a goal at the end of everything. I think your confidence being switched on and also your confidence growing continuously and being kind of reached to a new level is a little bit different. But I do think everyone needs to realize that you can you can decide like to feel confident
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
yeah.
can create it, you can feel it, and you can build upon that.
Yeah, it is. It's something that it only you can work on it for you. Nothing that you can buy or anything like that is going to give you confidence. It's literally that thing that you are going to have to work on yourself. So
Yeah.
everyone's going to struggle with it in some way, but
Yeah, and like I remember you were chatting at the last event about how when you're a kid, you know what I mean? Like you have all the confidence in the world. You
yeah,
get up, you're trying to walk, you fall down 7, you stand back up 8. You've all the confidence in yourself. You know you can do it. You get up, you're
yeah,
doing these things. There's so much innocence to it. You haven't been exposed to other people's opinions. You haven't been exposed to the world, to social media, to all of these different things. And as you start to grow up, your confidence starts to shrink because you start to form ideas and opinions of yourself, but also you start to take on board other people's ideas and opinions of yourself and the world and different things like that. So we are all born with confidence and feeling confident and, being doing these things and not caring what anyone else thinks. And as a kid, we all know we look on a kids and we're like, God, I wish I could feel like that again. I wish I could not care. Even thinking about like little kids that you bring to swimming lessons and you literally throw them into the water and they automatically swim. That
yeah,
blows my mind because it's like that's because they know no different. They have confidence in themselves that they're like, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm not like this is fine. Like, do you know what I mean?
mm,
Until they do get older. Myself, if I was thrown into a pool right now, I'd absolutely drown. And that is because of the things I know now. I fear things a lot more. I know that there's two outcomes. And you know what I mean? I think the more you're obviously exposed to the world and the negativity as you start to grow up, that's where it starts to kind of dwindle a little bit. And it's really sad.
it
Um,
is.
but it is up to you to kind of take that switch, like kind of come back around to things and create. your younger self, we'll say, that didn't care what anyone else thought and just wanted to do you and work on yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
So, coming back to that, and obviously, even talking about our younger selves and being a tiny little tot, we're obviously confident. And then growing up in the world, you do get exposed to more, and different things start going on. And especially as teenage girls, we know what it's like to go through those phases of not feeling like you're good enough, not feeling confident enough, not feeling like just worthy enough in general. But what would be one piece of advice you would give your younger self growing up in this day and age now?
It's probably easier said than done, but just to focus a little bit less on what other people think and just to focus on yourself, because if you constantly let other people's opinions and thoughts and negativity reflect on you as a person, you're going to then radiate all them thoughts. So just to focus on you a little bit more and not on the outsiders and what they're saying and their opinions, especially in a world now where social media is so loud, everyone's on social media about everything. And if you kind of are one of them people that sees things all the time on social media, whether it's people talking negatively about their body, whether it's crash diets, whatever it is, that's going to reflect on you. So to put a little bit less focus on all of them things and just focus on what makes you feel good because that's where your confidence will come from. Like,
Yeah. I think for myself, I spent so many years unhappy and just focusing on how my body looks. If
mm,
I could go back now and tell her one thing, it would be that, you know, the way you look and what your body looks like is probably the least important thing about you.
yeah,
Like, and as well as that, like, your body can do so much more than just look good. And I think that's what the gym did for me as well. It was really like, actually, I can do heavy things, I can do hard things, I can accomplish these things. Like, and none of it is based off of how I look, and none of it is based off of what size I am, what I weigh, what's going on, and what food, like, I ate this morning and now I have to go and burn it all off. And I think for me, if I could go back to my younger self, 15, 16 years old, going through those kind of toxic exposed cycles, it would be to just remind me that your body can do so much more, and the least important thing about you is what you weigh, how you look, and what other people, as you said there, how other people view you is none of your business. Like, literally, how you view yourself is what's going to get you through life.
yeah,
Everyone else and their thoughts and their opinions, that's not what you have to live with. That's not what you have to kind of listen to. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, I think that was a really nice one as well from yourself. So yes, having said all of that, obviously we still are very aware that right now we can discuss all of these things and people will still struggle with body
mm,
image and with self-confidence. If there's one sentence, quote, piece of advice that you could give to anyone to slightly overcome this toxic trait and just that black hole, what would it be?
just to show yourself 1% of a bit of self love every single day. You know, I think that's where it really comes from. It's just having a bit of love towards yourself. And like, though that's not cringy to say, but like, appreciate yourself and appreciate your body for everything that it does for you and show it love. Don't show it as much negativity, once a day.
Yeah.
Off.
I remember you saying before as well about looking in the mirror and seeing, actually pinpointing like what you like,
Yeah.
instead of constantly pinpointing and pointing out like the things that you hate. Like, and that's so important because, like, oh my God, what is it with women? Because obviously I've been around males before that just don't do this. Like, so obviously we are just wired completely different. But like, we literally look in the mirror and the first thing we'll see is like the hair out of place and maybe a little bit of excess body fat on our stomach. The lower pouch for a woman, like, oh my God, like, that is the first thing everyone looks at. They feel like they can't wear certain clothes. They feel like that is the one thing that, everyone's going to be staring at. The things you see and the things you're insecure about when you're looking in the mirror, I can probably guarantee not one person on the street looks at when they see you. And
Yeah.
I remember you saying that before, to, look in the mirror and concentrate on, oh, actually, my waist looks small, or look how strong my legs look, or,
Mm,
oh my God, my shoulders look really nice in this dress. Something as small as, look how long my eyelashes are.
yeah.
Something, I think, positive when you look in the mirror instead of constantly staring at yourself and picking out negative things.
Yeah. It is. It's huge. Like,
Yeah. I was actually listening to a podcast before where they did say that you can't actually like change what you think. Like once you think something, you've thought it, you can't change that. Like we all get that. Obviously, we have these thoughts. But what we can do is try and rewrite them and try and rewire them. So as you look in the mirror saying you're thinking all these negative things or you're constantly picking yourself apart, that's a continue like that's something that you're building upon then. Every time you're going to do that all of the time. You're going to continue to do that, then that's a habit, then that's something that you're doing all of the time every day. Whereas if you stop that thought and rewrite it every time it comes into your head, you can create a new habit. You can do something that's like, oh my God, like, my arms look huge. Oh, wait, but actually, look at my hair. My hair is actually really nice. Rewire your thinking. And if something negative comes in, change it to something positive as quickly as you can. I think a huge thing that I would always say is to start. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God, it's so simple. Like, even as you were like, it's so simple what the advice you would give. But at the same time, when you're stuck in that hole and in that rut of that way of thinking, it's not as clear as and precise as you would want it to be.
yeah,
Please start. It does not matter how long it's going to take. It does not matter, like, what you need to do. Just once you're going in the right direction, once you take that first step, you kind of, even just as we said there, rewiring your thoughts, looking in the mirror, thinking something like straight away, think something positive. But start doing these things that are going to help you. And yeah, that would probably be my number one tip.
yeah. No, definitely would agree with that one too.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like starting is hard. Like with the calls that we have, consult calls and chatting to women, like they're all on edge, like nervous, do you know what I mean? Not sure what to expect. Then literally the first week, they're like, this is fine.
Yeah,
It's absolutely fine. I think you like big these things up in your head where you're like, oh my God, I'll never be able for that. This person's doing this person looks great. I'll never do that. I'll never accomplish this, or that's going to be way too hard for me. It's unrealistic. Everyone is very personal. Everyone's journey is very personal, as it should be. It should be individual. I think when you're starting, you big it up in your head to be this big, scary thing. And then literally you're like, that actually wasn't that bad at all.
yeah,
I just needed to begin. Yes.
yeah. Just take
So,
that first.
yeah. I have this picture here as well, that I just got up. That is tips for improving body image and self esteem. So we'll finish up on this, and I'll just kind of read out what it says, and we can see if there's anything there that we agree with. But the first one was to produce positive self talk, which we just said. So
Yes.
absolutely, use self affirmations to build confidence. Do you use any affirmations for yourself?
Sometimes, yeah, if I'm like really being like having a negative day, I'll be like, right, start talking nicely to yourself about yourself. Like, so yeah, they actually do work as well.
Yeah. One huge one for me, and I write it every day, is I am worthy. Like I can beat myself up thinking that like I'm not good enough. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think they really do work because I write it nearly everywhere so I can see it, and I'm like, if that thought comes in my head, I can see that I am worthy. Do you know what I mean? And I can see that. So I really do agree with that one in a sense of you have to make it personal for you as well. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like people have all different kind of things that they might not feel confident in. So just kind of writing things down like the opposite version of what you're talking badly about yourself and reminding yourself of that again creates a habit of you speaking positively. Um so to focus on health and not appearance.
Yes.
Like
Definitely.
sorry, even for you that's obviously huge because
Yeah.
your health was what mattered most. So another thing here is to experience mindfulness, which like it says like meditation and yoga, which I wouldn't do a lot of. Do you do a lot of any of that?
I've never really done like yoga and stuff. I went to like one yoga class a few weeks ago and I was like, this has changed my life. Like I really want to go back to it. But of course I'm always working on the days that it's on. But I love mindfulness. Like even if it's just writing in my journal or it's taking myself for a walk, putting a podcast on, getting in my own thoughts and stuff, like I just love it so much.
Yeah, I would agree with the journaling. I do enjoy that, and I actually really enjoy being by myself. Like I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
alone time, amazing.
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. I just have never kind of like meditated or gotten too deep into it. I don't think myself.
I don't know, I like it's only in like the last year and a half that I've like gotten into it a little bit more and I just love it. Like, do you
Yeah.
know, I remember even when I went to Spain that time and that's like literally all I'd done for the week was like, self mindfulness, like a bit of meditation in the apartment. Like I'd say if anyone's seen me, they're probably like, what is she at? But
What's
so nice.
going on in there?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, amazing. If it
Yeah.
works, we're absolutely here
Yeah.
for it, 1000%. Another one here that I saw, and I know that we're automatically going to be like, absolutely, is build a strong support system and environment, which, wow, if you have negative people, negative like people, coming in, telling you things, picking you apart, different things like that, you're automatically going to feel like that. You're going to be drained. No positivity to give back to yourself.
Definitely agree with that one too.
Yeah, I think negative people and negative vibes gone, but support is obviously very, very important. If it is the case that you're trying to do something that you need support with, it's not always needed, but your environment 1000% needs to be as strong as ever.
Yeah.
So then the other one is to seek professional help for body image issues, which absolutely, like, if it can get very severe. It absolutely can. You can obviously seek professional help with regards to therapy, different things like that, or like genuinely, like, things like working on your health and
Mhm.
changing kind of your actual day-to-day habits and routine and stuff like that. So I am absolutely here for that. I've never had to go that deep into it or seek any professional kind of help in general, but I can imagine it can get that serious.
Yeah, and if you need the help, it's there for a reason. Go and get it. Like,
Absolutely. And then the last one is to just develop more self-help and coping strategies. Am I okay? Developing self-help and coping strategies to improve overall well-being. So I actually think that is very true. Like, there's
mm,
certain things that I would do when I catch myself going down a negative spiral or having negative thoughts. A huge one for me at the minute is getting out on a morning walk. It really helps me for the day. Number one. And I think number two, when I do see myself going through negative spirals, I have to talk about it. I have to
yeah,
talk about it. Whether it's just out loud to myself or to my partner or to a friend, family member, but I have to say it out loud because then it's not eating me away in my thoughts. It's out. I actually feel like relieved when I get it out there. And as well as that, as I was saying, I do write it down. Like, I'll write down positive things about myself and maybe the opposites to the negatives that I'm feeling. Is
yeah.
there any strategies that you would have?
I think I'd be fairly much the same. Like, I need to just speak it to someone, and kind of not like validate my feelings, but like just have someone to kind of bring me back to ground, I guess. Like, bring me back to base, just be like, calm down, like you don't need to be going on this spiral and stuff. Cause my mind will run like at like 100 miles an hour. So when I have someone to be like, right, just breathe. And then I'm like, okay, it's all right. I'm actually okay. Like, and then just journal after as well. I always find this good, like write down on paper how you're feeling so that next time that you're feeling that way, you've something to go back to and what actually helped you, you know, deal
Yeah.
with that at that time. It's probably gonna work for you again if it worked the first time.
Do you know what's I think as well, if you have felt that way before and you know that you felt okay afterwards, that's a huge help. And that's, even as you were saying, to have someone to kind of chat to, like having a coach is obviously huge for that as well when it comes to your fitness journey and different things like that and goals. Like, you get to talk to them and like let them know what's going on. And we obviously get to literally bring them back down to earth
Yeah.
and let them know kind of from an outsider point of view. But I think like we all go through like lower days, lower weeks, and negative thoughts, spiraling, little things like that in general. I think though, once you know what works for you and you have come out the other side every time, that's something that you need to then know you repeat. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
you don't just let it fester. You don't just let it go on and on and on till you get to a point of no return. So as you
yeah.
said, either like writing down things that you know works for you and making sure that you refer back to that, or building these strategies up that you know that you can make into a habit if it is happening.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yes, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Honestly, I love that because I do think, as I said, it's so nice to kind of see different experience, different kind of ways that things have affected us individually and how we actually got here in general. Obviously, our main aim, our main value now is to show other people how to come out the other side, how to feel good. Me personally, I never want anyone to feel how I felt. I want people to literally love themselves in whatever version that is and to feel more confident, because I really do feel like everyone deserves to go through life feeling like they can and like they are confident enough in what they do. For yourself, I know that obviously you're the same, and that's why I always thought that together we gel really, really well and work really well. But is there any other kind of real reason why you love doing what you do?
I just love when people start to realize, they can actually do the things that they think they never could. That's like my drive. I think and you get to guide people on that and kind of navigate them through that journey. It's just incredible to be a part of. I love it. Like, and it could be the most minorest of things. It could be, as you said, like, I want to run a 5K, people think to themselves like that's a goal that's so far out of reach. And then they go and achieve it, and like that feeling of them achieving it and their confidence rising and how good they feel for doing things, it just makes everything worthwhile. Like, that's my drive. I love all of that.
Yeah, I definitely second that. But yeah, okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much.
sharing your journey as well. I know that sometimes it's not the easiest thing in the world. If you are still listening, thank you so much for being here with us on this episode. It's a topic I feel should be heard and discussed a lot more often. Don't forget to tag, share, and follow as always, as I love seeing you all. And thank you for your support. It is always so appreciated. If ever any questions or something that you would like to discuss, please always ask away. You know that is what I'm here for. And I do just want to leave you all with this. Confidence is not found, it is not bought, and it is not given. Confidence is created through taking action. But you must be willing to start in order for it to grow. Oh, and always remember, if there is days you're feeling down or days where you just simply don't believe in yourself, always know I'm over here believing in you and I'm over here rooting for you.